name is Carl Justin. I'm with ECS Arizona. We're a contractor with Lutron. Lutron contracts with us to start up their lighting control systems. The system that's installed in this place is the Vive lighting control system. It's a wireless lighting control system. And we're going to go over the Vive app that allows you to make changes and adjustments to the lighting system. Good afternoon. Sorry for everybody to have to be here on a Friday at 1 o'clock. So I didn't schedule this. My name is Carl Justin. I'm with ECS Arizona. We're an independent contractor with Lutron. Lutron hires us to come out and start systems up for them. I'm here kind of in an emergency. I own ECS Arizona, but one of my employees was let go, so I had to jump in and be here these 4 days to start the system up. So my preparation might not have been as great as it should have been, but I'm going to go through as much as I can with you guys today. So I literally just finished commissioning the system. I mean, like 15 minutes ago. Assigned the last few aux sensors to the system. The other issue that we came across, you have a great system here in the building. It's very granular. When you look up all your light fixtures, the linear light fixtures each have their own address. So it's very granular. You can really do a lot of programming with that and adjustments with that. Unfortunately, it didn't show it on the print, so that's why it took a little bit longer for programming as well, because I had to address every single fixture, right? So getting into the system itself, the Vive system is a Lutron system that has been on the market for about 5 years now. It's a complete wireless system. So on each one of your fixtures, there's what is called a Pow Pack that has a wireless component attached to it that also has a 0 to 10 volt dimming on board, so it can communicate to any kind of wall control, to occupancy sensors without having to run wires, right? Which makes it easier from an installation standpoint sometimes. So with that said, on the individual fixtures, it even has the capability of reading the power that's going through the fixture. So there's a capability of you seeing what the power usage is on that fixture as well. My process that I had to go through is one more item to that. The system is managed by what we call a Vive Hub, and the Vive Hub you can find them throughout the building. There's 9 of them in the building. 2 of them are in those hallways out there. They look like round discs with a little antenna on there, and that antenna flashes once a minute. And that manages the communication of all the devices that are within about 70 feet of it, right? So what I had to do, I went through the process of signing into the Vive Hub, creating areas within that range of that Vive Hub, and then found the light fixtures that were in that range and assigned them to that specific room. And then once I have them in this specific room, then I can assign them to the wall controls, which are the Pico controllers on the wall right up when you're coming up the stairs, or to the occupancy sensors. That's all the part of the commissioning of the project, right? So you have to define the rooms, then you have to define the light fixtures, and then you have to define the controls in that room. So once we set something up for you guys on the Vive Hub that you guys have, the MSU Romney hall will show up there. And there will be at first a list of all the different Vive Hubs. You guys can move them all around here if you want to find something. Just don't bump the camera. What I usually do, I label the Vive Hubs. The first number is usually the floor. And then the second number would be how many hubs are on the floor, right? So you have a 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. So on the 0 floor, there's 1 hub, and then all the other floors have 2 hubs, right? The other way to label them would be that you could say one west and one east, if that's easier to recognize. Right now you see that little connection here. So in order to connect to a Vive Hub, you have to connect into the hub via the Wi-Fi signal of your iPad or your tablet. Each Vive Hub has a Wi-Fi repeater built into it. So it shows up on the Wi-Fi. It doesn't connect to any other Wi-Fi system or anything like that. There's no network connectivity or anything. It's just that you can sign in with an iPad for programming, right? So right now I'm signed into Vive Hub 1.1, which is the one that controls this specific room here. So with just finishing the commissioning, meaning having everything just assigned to each other, I have not had any chance to do any schedules or anything like that, right? But we can go into the room and areas right now. So these are the rooms and areas that are managed by this particular hub, right? So we have the room that we're in, and I don't recall, there's the restrooms that are right over there. There's some hallways, the west stairs. And I took the labeling of the rooms off of the print that I had. It can be changed later on, right? And when I didn't have a room number or there wasn't a number on the print, I just called it what it was, right? West stairs or something like that, right? If we're going into the room right now, you can see that we're controlling 28 lights in here. And that's basically all the individual Pow Packs. The green Pow Packs are normal power Pow Packs. The red ones are emergency Pow Packs. What the emergency Pow Packs do is that when you lose normal power, the Vive Hub is on normal power as well, meaning it loses its signal. The moment a emergency Pow Pack loses the signal from the Vive Hub, it goes into emergency mode, meaning it turns the lights that are connected to it to 100%, right? So it takes basically control out of the situation. So it can't be turned off by an aux sensor because except for in here, most aux sensors are battery powered, all the controls are battery powered. So they're not connected to any power. So if this wouldn't happen, then you could still turn an emergency fixture off with an aux sensor or with a Pico wall switch, right? That's why the moment it loses its power signal from the Vive Hub, it goes into emergency mode and stays on for 20 minutes. The moment the Vive Hub comes back with power, it takes about 20 minutes and then it goes back into its normal programmed schedule. Make sense? What I also usually do, there's tags that I can put on each one of the fixtures. When you look at the drawing, it's not the right drawing, but the drawing for this room, it has a row of fixtures spelled U and the other one, what was it, Z or something, X. So this section is X, let's say, and this section is U. So what I did, I call, the first row, and then fixture 1 is 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, and 1, 5. So that way you can then identify fixtures as well. And I can also identify where it says flash, I can make a fixture flash. So if you ever need to identify, this comes in handy later when you want to potentially do some reprogramming on things. Any questions so far?
Question I have, you said the occupancy sensors are battery operated.
Uh-huh.
How long does the battery last?
13 years. Lutron guarantees 10. They had them independently tested and came back with 13 years. Right.
Yeah, those Picos are the same way.
Yeah, Picos and batteries and
It's right at PM for 13 years,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
10 years.
10 years changing
Yeah,
batteries.
We'll do
blanket
it
change
11,
up.
have them do it.
I can set up PMs to change out that part. That might be my
10 years?
Yeah.
All right,
Day
perfect.
after I retire, please.
Day before. About 6 months.
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine.
What size batteries are they?
The Picos have the like
CR 2020s.
yeah
The little
R
guy, the watch batteries? type?
yeah 3032s I think, or 2032s, those
I know what
watch
you're talking about,
batteries, and the occupancy sensors have the short. It's like the half AA batteries.
Okay.
They're like for cameras and stuff.
Right.
Right.
We got a couple
Easily.
handicap doors and crap.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. All right. So, schedules. Like I said, I haven't been able to get to that yet. But you can enter the name of the event, let's say after hours. You can choose which days you want to have that run. Let's say we just want to have it run Monday through Friday. You can also say, specific dates if you want to have any kind of holiday schedule or any other specific schedules. And then you have the choice to do it at specific times of the day, or you can make it dependent on sunrise or sunset. Right? You can say before sunrise, after sunrise, and so on. And then you can say, okay, which areas do I want to include on that schedule? And let's say I just want to have this room right now, 007. And you can, for example, modify the occupancy settings, right? So you can say, at that specific time, you want to have the occupancy sensors go disable. So let's say in some applications that we do, you want to say you want to not have the occupancy sensor active during the day because you don't ever want to have the lights shut off, right? So when we're doing office environments, often during from 9 to 5, they wanted to have the lights on. Or another thing that you can do, you can change what happens during that time when it's occupied or unoccupied. Another thing that you can say, during normal business hours, you want to have the lights dim to 20%, but after hours you want to turn the lights off when it goes unoccupied. So that flexibility is built into the system. So if you don't ever want to have a space go completely dark, you can set it that from 9 to 5, the lights, when go unoccupied, go to 20%, and then the rest of the time, they go actually off when the occupancy sensors trip. One important part that can be sometimes a cause for service calls, the occupancy sensors, the reason why their battery lasts so long is that they only send a signal when they change their state. So when they go from occupied to unoccupied, they send a signal out into the system for the lights to trigger. And then vice versa, when they go from unoccupied to occupied, they send a signal. Otherwise, they're quiet, right? All the occupancy sensors right now from the factory are set for a 15-minute timeout. You can set them to 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 30 minutes. But you also have Pico switches in all of the different rooms, right? So what can happen is, like in a bathroom, for example, there's Pico switches in there. Somebody walks in, the lights turn on, the 15 minutes starts, right? The person leaves the bathroom and turns the lights off with the Pico, while the occupancy sensor is still in its timer for the 15 minutes. If a person walks in before the 15 minutes are over, the lights will not turn on with the occupancy sensor because it's still in its occupied state. And sometimes we get calls saying our occupancy sensors don't work. It's because they're still in that state. So that can happen in areas, especially common areas where you have both controls. We have some walkway, the hallways upstairs have Pico controllers. It could happen there as well. Right? A good thing for that not to happen is maybe make the occupancy time shorter in areas where you don't want to have that happen too much, right? But makes sense?
Can you disable the switches for a certain time? Program them for like during the day they don't work and then at night, something like that.
I'm not sure. I don't think Vive has the capability of disabling the Pico switches.
When it hits its 15-minute timeout, before it hits that, it can go to like 70%, 50%, or dim it down a little. Like if you're in a room and the lights go dim, you're like, oh, we need to move to get them back, or they're about to go off.
Well, one thing that I like to do, for example, in areas where you never want to have it completely dark, set it up that the unoccupied setting is maybe 10%.
Yeah, it's just
right.
set it up.
And I mean, you have LEDs everywhere, even in a bathroom, you have maybe 80 watts of LEDs in there, if that right now. So if you set it to 10%, that's 8 watts of energy that's being consumed. So it's not huge, but the room never goes actually dark.
So if it does go to that 10% and they get up and move around, it won't turn on unless they hit the Pico?
No.
Because it will, it'll sense that even though it's in
Well, once the occupancy sensor goes to unoccupied, the moment it senses motion, it goes back to occupied and sends a signal out. It's only that time in between, right?
And if they hit the Pico, like you said, when they leave, they hit it, but if somebody comes in and hits the Pico, does that put everything back to the normal operating?
The Pico has no influence on the occupancy sensor. So the occupancy sensor will be in that state where it's at. And let's say the occupancy sensor was triggered to go to occupied 13 minutes ago, and somebody walks in and the lights are dark. The occupancy sensor will pick up that person and reset its timer. So then the 15 minutes starts back over, right? Then you can go to the Pico to turn the lights on, right? And like I said, maybe in bathrooms it would be good to set it to 5 minutes so you shorten the time down a little bit. Yeah.
And the switches will still talk to the Pow Packs without Wi-Fi, because it's all.
Yes, yeah.
With
So
Wi-Fi, we can still control the lights. The hubs just won't do their thing.
So it has nothing to do with Wi-Fi. So your lighting control system is not connected to your Wi-Fi, right?
Just the hubs.
The hubs have their own Wi-Fi spot built into them, right? Once commissioning and programming is fully done, we can have a conversation with your network people. Often the network team wants to have that Wi-Fi spot turned off, which can be turned off in the hub, so it doesn't even show up, right? Because that could be confusing, students sitting here and what's a Vive Hub 1.1, right? So, did the networking get done? Okay, all right. So, through this app, you can also control lights. so you can see right now the different spaces and what state they're in. Like, the bathrooms are unoccupied right now. This room, of course, is occupied. And it shows you the Pico switches that are in that space. And I can pull that up. And the B is all the indirect lights. And then we have the U. So that's the section of lights that's up front. And what I did, and again, this can be renamed at some point. I labeled the Picos for the light sections that they're controlling, and those correspond to what's on the drawings, right? So, let me see. It's the last page. So this is the room that we're in, and those fixtures were labeled U on the print that I had, right? So I labeled that Pico for the U fixtures, right? And then there will be a second set of Picos in the center of this wall, and I just labeled it then Pico U center, right?
And what Picos is it? Is it the raise lowers or?
Yeah.
That's it, just
Yeah.
raise lower?
It's right
And a
on,
favorite?
off, and raise lower. Yeah. Now the Picos that are on this project don't have
A favorite?
a favorite button in the middle.
Two
Yeah, 2-button raise lowers. Yeah.
I've seen those before.
So there's still, the system will give you information on energy savings. So right now, since the restroom is off, it has 100% savings in there, right? Because the lights are off. So this is all data sets that can be set up in the system for you to monitor and see how the system is performing. Now all of this here will require that you have the app on an iPad, right? And then you can go into each individual hub, make these changes, making those schedules and all that. I'm not sure, I haven't seen it on the bill of material, but what Lutron also offers, and it might be beneficial for a building like this because you have 9 hubs in here. There's another software that Lutron developed. It's called Vive View, that allows you basically. I think it's already in preparation that all the hubs are going to be networked together to a network switch, and if you can set up a server, the Vive View software could be loaded on that server, and then all this data from all these hubs can be pulled in. All we would need is IP addresses for those Vive hubs, and then you can actually lay this whole system out by floors, right? So everything that I put in pulls right into the software, and then you can take the floor plans, import them into the software, and then populate it from there. And then you can see the fixtures and all that. And then the system becomes manageable from any desktop that's connected to your network. So then you don't have to be in the building with a iPad and go to all the different places. So I would definitely look into seeing if that's feasible to be installed here.
The users of the room, are they gonna operate the lights from the Pico, or are they getting an iPad or
No.
something?
No.
So it's just the Picos they operate? Okay.
Is there gonna be a set of prints, like if we walk into this room to do some changes, and it's got the addresses for the light correspond with where it is on the print, is there gonna, no? So we just gotta find it on the pad and,
The iPad's gonna go through and have individual fixtures mounted, set to it, so each one of these has got a power pack. The side light itself on both sides has got one single power pack for each one.
but we can't look at the print and say that and LED down there is
Serial
iPad
number to this, that's that Vive View system that he was
Okay.
just speaking of.
Is it,
Right.
if it's on there, but we can't look at the print to change that, we gotta find it on the pad and change it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You will get notifications if you know a Pow Pack goes offline or anything like that. So, but it's all based on the iPad and that you're having that app on your iPad. It can also go on the phone. I think it goes on Android or Apple devices, but you have to be in the space to make any.
Right, but if I
no-
wanna make that fixture right there flash, I gotta go through
right.
process of elimination.
Yeah, well, I always start from the entry, rows back, 1, 2,
Okay, so there's,
and then start with a fixture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this way, right? So,
So the notifications, do they just, if something goes, it comes up on that when you log in, or how do you know the notification is notifying you?
let me see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Or do you have to
I
log
think
in and
I
then you have to look
yeah.
at it and you'll see?
So on the standalone Vive, what happens is, a light might go out and all that, and you have to log into the hub to get any of the notifications,
Okay.
right? If you have Vive View, there's a section in there where you can actually set it up to get notifications sent if something is not working properly. There's also a function built in there that you can set it up that when the batteries of aux sensors or Picos reach their end of life, that you can get a notification for that.
it'll
Right.
tell us that, if they're like 20%,
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
That definitely.
right.
That's an extra batch of software.
Yeah.
Make too much sense.
No. Yeah, and Vive is designed for classrooms like this, maybe a floor. Standalone Vive works well for that. Vive works great for a whole building. We've done really big buildings, 200,000 or 300,000 square feet with them. But to make it manageable, I would always suggest to go and get Vive View for that. Otherwise, you have 9 hubs in here. You're going to be running around and trying to find where is what and things like that. All your scheduling can then be done from a desktop and all that kind of stuff too. Right.
Tweaks if they wanna change this, that, or the other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Without
And then
over here and stand here.
right. Right. And then from a facility standpoint, if a professor calls, hey, my lights are out, now you can actually, if you have access then to your network from wherever you're at, you go in to that server and you can look into that right there instead of having to come into the classroom and
And it'd be
Do
pretty almost impossible for the lights not to come on in the room,
correct.
because everything has its own source.
Correct.
Every light fixture, right?
Yes,
So it has to be a matter of occupancy or Pico not working.
correct.
Or that somebody pushed the switch, turned it off, and then that's doing that occupancy sensor override, so somebody would actually have to push, hit the switch again
Turn it
to
back
actually
on.
turn it on.
Right.
So in order for us to operate or look at it from a desktop, this building, when it's turned over to us, won't have that. We'll have to talk to our network people to get that installed, right?
Yeah, essentially, and that was something that wasn't provided.
Right,
with
right.
this
Yeah,
particular
no, I'm
system.
just
That'd be,
asking.
Yeah, I'll make a note in my report that you guys might be interested in that, and then the reps will reach out through the proper channel
Yeah,
to
'cause if we
see.
get it back to our shop, then we can look at it from the shop and,
You can pull it up on
Yeah.
your
Do
phone.
it from the house.
The
Yeah,
same
we can do it
works
from
on
the
both
house.
Apple and
Yeah.
we don't have to come to
I
work
got this
anymore.
bill.
That's kind of the new thing, the COVID thing, is do it from your house.
Try to get us all at home.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Trying to think. Like I said, I really just finished earlier the assigning of all the devices. So there's still the schedules to be built and all that. I'll put that in my trip report, and I'm probably thinking that there will be one more trip needed for one day to put that all into the system as well, right?
It will have copies of the schedules and what each room does.
Yes. Yes.
It's right on the actual electrical.
That's what we're sticking with.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much.
All written down if you need it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, like I said, on the bill of material that I got, it had like 86 or so Pow Packs. And then when Caleb and I talked, what wasn't put on the drawing was that a lot of fixtures actually came with Pow Packs already installed of them. So you have, there's about, I mean, if I would have to guess, there's probably 300 to 400 Pow Packs in this building. So
So we
that's,
come in, light doesn't work, if the Pow Pack is bad, we get a new one.
Possibly.
Right, we
Start
put it
there.
in, we gotta go in, get into the hub and assign that Pow Pack. And
correct.
Set it,
Reprogram it,
reprogram.
actually back
Yeah.
into the system.
Right.
So
Yeah.
each one will have its own serial number.
Yeah.
And there will be just one of these iPads with the program, the app and everything.
Well, there is an app that you download to anyone, and then there's how do you actually download it to your?
So from
So
What
we
I
have our
understand,
iPads,
so
we can just download.
the Vive-
our-
I just downloaded the app on here.
Okay,
So
And then-
download it, you just need the actual security password to be able to actually access any of the system. It'll have its own actual security system that nobody.
Right.
aside from whoever.
right, there's a few things that still need to be talked about, like
you're shutting down the job.
Pull that from the radio.
So, working with the network team and seeing when the Vive Wi-Fi, if and when that needs to be shut down, right? And then there would be a procedure to get it turned back on. So that's the other thing. So right now, the Wi-Fi is on for the hubs, so you can get in through that. Once we shut it off, then the network needs to be in place, and then are you with the network team? No. Okay.
But I can communicate back to the network team.
Okay. All right.
But I guess it depends, what would your recommendation be from an operations standpoint? Is it best to leave the Wi-Fi enabled so that anybody can walk in here for a maintenance call, connect to that hub? Does it simplify the maintenance?
There's
Can
two
operations
ways.
still leave it
There's
live?
two ways that could be done. Leaving it live, but sometimes the network team has heartburn about that, right? The other option would be, and it's already being in process, that everything will be networked, right? They're all going to be run back to a switch.
Yep.
I'm assuming that there will be its own building management network in this building that's independent from the other network. Will it have its own VPN for just?
There will be a VPN for HVAC controls and-
Okay.
and those things, but the plans don't call for this system to be in the BACnet
Okay. All right.
BMS system, is my understanding. Is that
Right.
accurate, John?
Yeah, it's not necessarily on the BACnet, but if they can reserve some IP addresses within that network for the lighting,
Server?
right, right. and then we can put those IP addresses on the Vive Hubs. Then we can shut off the Wi-Fi if then there is a tunnel for facilities to go on the MSU network and tunnel to those hubs then that way, right?
Okay.
So,
That'd probably be.
you know, the benefit of that would be that right now, for me to, this is hub 1.1 right here, for me to talk to that hub, I need to be close by, right? Once it's on the network and I can get through the wireless access points and have a VPN tunnel to them, I can be on the 4th floor and still talk to that hub down here, right? So,
I think we have to tweak it, will be, common areas will be common areas, period, but the individual classrooms will be,
right,
that's the only time we ever get any,
right,
they want it a little different.
yep,
As long as they turn it on and off and raise and lower it,
Right, that's all they've got.
yeah,
Right.
it's simple.
right. Now, is there any,
There's not a bunch of different programs that confuse
Just
people, is
on
that
off.
what?
Well, yeah, why do we
Yeah.
do that? I have no idea. It's so stupid.
are there any plans?
You're the only one that have access to
We
any
got
of
it
the controls with this hub system.
Are there any plans with, okay, well, Vive is capable, Lutron just finished writing all the drivers for Crestron and AMX and all these other audio video companies to tie into that as well through Ethernet connection. So if they have, you know, I mean, I see projectors and all that, so it is capable of setting it up that when they hit presentation button, that it automatically also triggers lights to go down and things like that. So that capability is built into the system. It's just additional programming and, you know, involves more of that part. But that the system is ready to do that as well. Right. From a quality standpoint, I installed my first Vive system, I think about 5 years ago, and it's been up and running without any issues. Right? And it was a smaller one at that point. I think we had like 50 or 60 Pow Packs and Picos and all that. The Picos and aux sensors I've used since 2010, 2011, and I have projects out there where I haven't changed out a battery yet. Right? So, unless the customer changed something out, unbeknownst to me. But other than that, it's very robust. Most of the time we get service calls either when there was a power surge and it destroyed a Pow Pack or something like that, or if, you know, a keypad or aux sensor was damaged through something, water, or somebody ran a card into a Pico or something
Are
like
the
that.
Picos, if you hit it, is it pretty quick, or
Yes.
is there a lag?
It's no
Okay,
lag.
So it's pretty fast.
Yes, yes.
Because we
Yep.
have a few here that we've installed, and there's a lag on it, and they get frustrated.
You,
Lag.
Picos? They might be out of range then. That's the only thing that I can think of.
They're like 25 feet.
Is that
Okay.
the wireless one? you're
Yeah,
talking about?
the ones in Herrick, there's a little bit
Yeah.
of a lag.
How old are they?
2 years.
Okay.
And they're the Vive 8JM, whatever, 0 to 10s. There is a lag on them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something prohibiting the communication. Because what Lutron did, their wireless communication is on the 434 megahertz range. So it's very low, it's not interfered by anything else. Because the owner of Lutron said, when I do wireless, it has to work like a switch, right? You push the button and something happens.
Yeah.
And so I'm
The
surprised.
wire switches are fine. They're instantaneous, but the
Oh.
Picos are just a little slower.
Okay.
I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, I'll if you can give me the information what building that is and all that, I'll put that in my notes. And
Next time I'm over there, I'll check them.
okay, because Lutron is very. It's important to them that they get these kind of reports back, and then they often, you know, send somebody out and look at that too and make sure that it's working right. Yeah. All right. So The system is pretty much completely commissioned. All the aux sensors are assigned to their areas where they need to assign to. One thing I wanted to mention in these classrooms here, the aux sensors in here are the only aux sensors on the job that are not battery powered. These are actually wired aux sensors because they wanted to have the dual technology aux sensors in here, ultrasound, is it ultrasound and infrared, right? Ultrasonic and infrared. Throughout the rest of the building, it's all the battery powered sensors. No.
I got a quick question. The aux sensors, they control a certain amount of lights or,
They pick on the entire room.
okay, so one sensor can turn on the entire, okay.
You got 4 of them actually in this room, you got
Right.
2 here, 2 in this other location over here.
So,
One occupancy picks you up, it'll kick on the entire room. There's
Okay.
a wireless one that's actually mounted to the bottom part of that beam in that weird hallway. As soon as somebody walks into there,
turn them on too.
Well, right now, what I have set up is I have the aux sensor in there just control the hallway
oh, okay.
because I didn't think that you wanted to have all the lights come on here if somebody just walks through that hallway. I mean, it can be
That's
changed.
something If they do wanna change it,
Yeah.
that's just
Well, I'm
change
just
the
curious,
program.
yeah, how many
change it
sensors,
over.
Right.
how many lights the sensors control? They
Yeah.
control all of them.
Yeah. So if usually, a space like this, it has 4 aux sensors. All 4 aux sensors have to go into the unoccupied state for the lights to turn off, right? And hallways the same. You have some hallways, there are 6 or 7 sensors in there. All of them have to say, I'm unoccupied before the lights turn off, right?
One will turn them on, but they all have to.
Correct.
agree to turn on.
Correct. And then in some areas, there were daylight sensors that I set up and calibrated to keep about 30-foot candles. There's none down here, but you see like on the 4th floor around the old gym area, there's a hallway going around, and there's some daylight sensors in there. So when you walk in and the lights come on, the lights that are right in front of the windows will be dim because there's enough light coming in through the windows. So the lights are okay. The other thing is you cannot override. Once a light is dimmed down, the daylight sensor takes precedent, right? So if the lights are dimmed down and you go to the Pico and try to raise them, they won't raise up, right? There's a classroom where I'm not sure if the daylight sensor makes much sense because the only way for me to calibrate that was the whole entire run, which is like about 25-foot run, 20-foot run? 28-foot run. And the whole run is together. Now, a big portion of that is by the window, but then the other portion is in the room. And right now, the daylight sensor is enabled, and it dims the whole 28-foot light down. So once you get further into the room, you're losing some light in there. Maybe you can move the daylight sensor further into the room to balance it out a little bit more, to get the energy savings from that. So I think there's still a few things that need to be dialed in, all the schedules and all that. But like I said, the system is functional, all the occupant sensors work, all the Picos work, so you have control of the lights now. It's just a matter of schedules and all that still need to be built. And then I know there's a very detailed sequence of operation that just need to be commissioned properly, right? And if you do decide to look into the Vive View, the commissioning on all these sequence of operations can be done then from one central location instead of having to go through the building into each hub, right? It's a very simple system. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else that I need to talk about. You have basically 3 kinds of Pow Packs installed. There's a single fixture Pow Pack that has the capability of about 1 amp of power going through it. Then you have the emergency Pow Packs that are automatically always 8 amps because you have several fixtures connected to that. And then you have some regular normal power Pow Packs as well that are 8 amps, right? That controls several fixtures. Like the staircase, you have several fixtures on one Pow Pack, or in the hallways, you have several fixtures on one Pow Pack. And a lot of them are out in the open. I don't know if you can't really see them in here, but there's some out in the hallway that we can look at if you guys want to see that, how they're installed and where they're installed.
Are the ones on the fixtures, they bolt it, like sticking out the top, or we gotta take the lens out to get to it?
No, they're
On top?
on top, yeah.
Okay. It's not
Yeah.
mounted